Okay, we got the stare at straight edge out here. Let's try this is kind of a pain because it's so big. Yeah, it goes through. There's 2/1000ths. There's 4. Oh, let's go to 6. No sense to go individual thousandths here because we'll be here all day. 6 goes under. So I didn't want to machine this, but apparently I'm going to have to. Let's get up to 8. Okay, 8 will go. Just barely. 8/1000ths is a lot on something that's only a few inches across. Yeah. Yeah, so we can get 8 under that. Just barely. So let's go check out the block. Hopefully the block is good, because if the block is frigged up too, that means we gotta take the engine apart. Okay, let's see what we can do here. It feels like right down to the iron, so we'll see what kind of a mess this side is. Boy, that's hard to hold up there. Come on. Yeah, it goes right through, the 2 does. No, it doesn't. If you get a good push on it, I would say that this side is flat enough. Well, it goes through there. But I'm going to do a little filing. Just with a file. 2/1000ths ain't nothing. I think this side's going to be all right. I'll get me a high quality file here and kind of dress it a little. I mean, I don't think I can get a 4 under it, so I think this side's all right. I'll bring you back in a little bit. I'm going to do a little filing off camera. So when I went over it with a file, it shined it up right down on this edge. And right up here just a little, and I cannot get a 2/1000ths in here. So it's all in the actual valve chamber, which is a good thing. Because I thought I was going to have to pull the piston, tip this engine upside down, take the cylinder off, lay it in the, and pull these 2 studs and machine it. That's what I was thinking I was going to have to do last night. But I do not have to. So I'm real happy about that. So what I have to do here, I have to bolt this back on the engine just enough to hold it while I unscrew the muffler and get the plug out of it. Then I'll bring it over here and disassemble, and we'll put it on the milling machine. Okay, this table, I haven't never really leveled the mill. It just sets where it sets, but it's pretty close. And as you can see, bubbles off just a skosh. And if you turn it, it's still about in the same area. So that tells me that the level is good. So I have just been beating this thing around with a piece of copper. Well, that little copper hammer right there. And yeah, I think we're going to call that a win right there. So we'll lock the old girl up pretty tight. Double check, make sure nothing moved. Looks good. Be interesting to see just how low that is. So I'll get things going and I'll bring you back. I'm going to take these cuts extremely slow. First cut's going to be 5 thousandths. Just want to make sure my speed weren't too fast on my power feed. So as you probably saw, when I started, I set up 5 thousandths. When I got to the other side, it was cutting 10 to 12 thousandths deep. It had at least doubled the depth of its cut. So I was off about 5 to 7 thousandths on level. Not a big deal on this. If it was something that needed to be level, I would have put an indicator on it, but you know, this is 1915 technology, so not too worried about it. The middle still has a shadow left. I'm going to make one more 5 thousandths pass. I would say as far as actual distortion, the front side was 5, the other side was 10 to 12 that I took off on the first pass. Didn't cut it. So if you figure out the average, you're at somewhere around, what, 8 thousandths or so? So it was more than 8. I took another 5, it just barely cleaned it. So, yeah, that's 13 thousandths. So, I would say it was out 13 thousandths. I'm going to take another 5 just to make sure it's actual 100%. You know, can't hurt, and it's moving that valve chamber in 5 thousandths isn't going to affect anything. So, yeah, I'm going to do that off camera. I'll show it to you when I get it done. Well, for something that was only about 4 inches wide, 12 thousandths was a lot. So I got it machined. I got to take a file to that. I actually thought I was cutting up high enough and I left a little ridge. So I'm going to dress that off real quick. And yeah, make a gasket for it. I'll show you the gasket. The gasket flame cut from firing them 15, 20 times there, whatever it did. Yeah, I think you can see that where it flame cut right here and on this side. This right here I'd probably chance because, you know, there's a lot of area there that's still good. Well, when you flip it around the right way. But, yeah. Get it the right way here. There we go. Goes this way. Yeah. But, see, it goes out into that water jacket and it flame cut all the way across. So anyway, I'm going to go and make a new gasket. I'll do that off camera. And then we'll see if this old girl will go back together. I mean, 12, 13 thousandths right here definitely would make that not seal up. So this might be good material, but it's not that good. And it kind of makes you wonder, the way this was all towards the middle, if the compound or whatever, because they probably did do this on the lathe, makes you wonder if the compound wasn't off a degree or two and they were kind of cutting in towards the middle as they went. Could have done it very easily. Probably was like that from the factory. And if it was, with them asbestos gaskets, they were very soft when you put them on. It's almost like a cloth. And I don't know if they put them on wet or dry, but either way, they would have conformed to that pretty easy. So anyway, modern gaskets are a little more fussy. So anyway, I'll be back in a few minutes with a new gasket. Well, I told Carol I'd be up by 10 o'clock, so I'm late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here filming for now. I'll get this done after supper. We're going to work outside for the rest of the day. This is what I got done. I actually torqued it to 100 pounds. I didn't before, I know. But before I torqued it, I took a 2/1000 feeler gauge and it would not go down through that center, which I'm sure it would have before. So I believe we've got this all straightened out. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's actually 2 days from when I videoed before. Yeah, just been busy. So yesterday was so nice. I cleaned up outside before the snow. We didn't get much, about 3/4 of an inch on the ground. Just a little scud went through last night. Well, it wasn't really a scud. It snowed for several hours, but didn't amount to much. 40 degrees all day yesterday. That was as warm as it got. But after lunchtime, it was sunny, and we took a little over a 2-hour four-wheeler ride. So probably one of the last ones we'll get this year. Figured we'd have fun with it. And it's funny because Molly and Shane said they ought to bring over their four-wheeler Gator there sometime, and we'd all go on the narrow gauge. And, you know, half the time they don't have their Gator license because they got, you know, pretty near 1,000 acres to ride on. And he said, I wouldn't worry about it. He said, what are the chances? Darned if we didn't get stopped by the law yesterday and checked our registration. Thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, we're back at this thing. So, yeah. This actually says not spark fires, but it says igniter fires. And, you know, these things all had spark plugs. I'm pretty sure the Witte Juniors, which is what this is, people call them a headless Witte, but it's actually a Witte Junior. All the Witte Juniors all had spark plugs. So it's kind of funny they chose that. I'll actually show you on my phone. I took a picture of that. I sanded it, which actually didn't help it. But I'll show you the picture that I took. And I'll explain to you what I'm looking at. This might be more difficult because I got it upside down. Let me put you over here where I can point you down a little bit. Get this thing the right way. IGNITER. And then igniter. There's the R right there. And then it says FIRES. And the S looks almost not right because part of it's missing. But anyway, take my word for it. Igniter fires. That's what that actually says. And, you know, so they're calling the spark plug an igniter. And it is, but it's not. You know, most people think of igniter as a make and break igniter. But that's that. The one below it by 3 inches is exhaust closes. And then, of course, we've already seen the one. And since I don't have the intake on, I've got a little setup here. We can actually check some stuff out. So I thought I could do a little better accuracy if we're watching the dial indicator when that starts to pick off. Let's see how far off we are. And I am on the wrong cycle. Let me get around one more. Okay, now we're getting close. Oh, right there. Come on. These big pistons are a little sticky. Right there. Yeah, right there, just starting to move. So this is how close we are. You can see we're off 1/4 of an inch. There's a mark right there, and we're off that much. I am not going to chase that. That is, you know, if it was early, I probably would make it a little later. But it's, oh no, I guess it is early, yeah. Yeah, it was a little early. Yeah, let's check that out. I'd rather have it be just a skosh at it or just a little late. But let's see now. That means we got to loosen that up. It's going to be worse on the other end, I think. So, because to make this lighter, we got to decrease the amount of lift on that. That's how it works on these. So if we go around to where it says exhaust closes, right there is where it closes. Oop, right there. So we're actually closing there, and that is almost top dead center. So for that to be open that far, we actually have to have that tighter on the lash, which it opens it earlier. Now the only way to change that is to change the time in one tooth. Down on the actual cam gear. And I'm not going to mess with that. I don't think you could get it any closer than what it is, just the nature of the beast. If I make that so it's lighter, you know, one tooth, how much does one tooth actually go? That's actually the distance that one tooth carries you if you move that one tooth. A steel will do. So that's going to give us 4 inches. Almost right on the money. When I originally got this engine, it was off one tooth. And we could get it to run, you know, it was late. So the ignition was way late. It was opening the exhaust way down close to the bottom. But it was carrying over top dead center with the exhaust still open. So that you was using a lot of your vacuum. I mean, they got to be pretty much right. This is close enough, though, because I know this engine's got a lot of power. You know, we're talking 1/4 of an inch. You know, that's close enough. Oh, just for curiosity, in case you're wondering, let's see what the lift is on one of these old girls. We'll move that stick out of the way. Get it around the right cycle. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 518, something like that. Yeah, 518 thousandths. Not bad lift. Yeah, I'm going to go and clean this up real good. I'm going to put just a skosh of red silicone on that copper gasket. I do not have a new one, and you can see that little dark. It was just weeping. I'm going to put a little red silicone on that. We're going to assemble this, and we'll see what we got for compression. Okay. We got to lift that up. So we want to have the exhaust open. There we go. That takes a less amount of stress. We've got a putty knife. I've got a little bit of red. Make sure it ain't in where the valve is, because that stuff will not burn off when the engine is running. Come on. There we go. Oop, got to put the valve spring on first. Come on. Now we'll roll that engine back down. There she goes. The back one's running a little stiff there. Yep, too tight. I always want to see a little bit of an air gap under them. And that way, when you tighten this one down, it carries the load to the center of it.
Okay.
Yeah, got plenty of air gap. Looks good. Okay. Let's see if we can get this thing to fire. Hopefully it'll run easier than it did before. Oh, where do I want that fuel? I don't want to catch nothing on fire down here. That kind of likes to be shut up a little bit. See what happens. I don't see any smoke, you know, inside the hopper. Or at least I don't think we do. You guys are sitting very precarious, but hopefully you can hear this. So that, of course the furnace would come on, but that obviously blew that gasket. So yeah, I gotta take it apart, see where, I'm sure it's in the same spot, but it must be this actual block is off just enough. But I do think if I make another gasket, because this one here you know is flame cut already, and I shouldn't have to take out the intake or anything. I should just be able to take the whole block off with 2 bolts and set it right back on. I just got to make another gasket. Yeah, I'll show it to you here when we get it off. As you can see, there was the weak point. So this bottom area here seemed to have stood it. I'll have to get the straight edge out there and check this little edge right here. You know, that might be an issue. If it's only a couple thousandths, that red silicone might handle it. I don't know. I know you can do right away with the manifold gaskets, especially on headers and stuff, and just use red silicone. Turn them right cherry red, you know, run them in a pro stock and they don't blow. But this, when it fires, probably has a couple hundred PSI on it, maybe 300. I don't really know for sure. I can tell you a funny thing though. I put a compression gauge with a check valve on an oil field, 15 horse Patton Brothers, and it was actually hooked up to natural gas in the oil field, and you could slow it down, throw the gas to it, and I mean, make it work as hard as you could make it. And about 400 PSI is all you could get on the cylinder. And that was, you know, with the firing. Couldn't get it any heavier than that. Which I was kind of surprised, but then I think about it, there's a lot of cubic inch there. Probably, yeah, makes sense now. But when I was young, I was surprised how little it was. I figured probably, you know, there'd be 1,000 PSI in there, but there's not. And when diesel fires, you know, you're already up to 475 or so when they fire. So, you know, and they got turbos and all that, a lot of different stuff. These are low compression. So anyway, yeah, enough rambling. That fire cut that right through there, just as plain as can be. So time to make another one. So I think I may have found the problem. Where I took off, you know, 20 thousandths, this right here, when I run a nut in, it binds it up solid on both of them. So I got to get a wire wheel and get this that I can run them nuts right back and forth. I think that's where my problem is. I think I'm tight and I'm just barely there. So anyway, we're going to do that, make a new gasket, and I still might put the red silicone to it, just as a security measure. So an interesting little thing. I ran a die over the studs over there, and it was loose. But I ran it in all the way, and the nuts still wouldn't go on. So I ran a tap through them, and they actually took out a lot of material. That tap went through, it was cutting the whole way. I mean, you know, whole pile of steel right there. So these were manufactured, like I've probably said before they had a lot of good standards, and it's obvious. They had their, you know, threading die up pretty tight, and they probably shop made taps or cutting a little small. For modern day, now they go right on, but they're a little sloppier than what I'd like, but it's all right. They go on. That's the main thing. But, you know, they're not real sloppy, but they go on all the way. And before, they were binding right up right there. So I'm actually thinking that this was my problem all along. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. That first time, we had an issue with the exhaust valve chamber. But now, we've got that straightened out. Let's make a gasket. I'm going to do it off camera, and we will put it back together off camera. And I'll bring you back when we try it again. So I don't know if you can read that, but that Garlock 2900 is good for 1000 psi and 400 degrees Fahrenheit continuous duty. So anyway, just thought I'd show you that. As you can see, I put a little red silicone around it, both sides. I gave it almost 20 minutes with it torqued up to 100 pounds. Then I went back and retorqued it, and it actually moved in, oh shit, 1/16 of a turn maybe, but I did get 6 or 8 inches on the end of the torque wrench there before it snapped. So it did move that a little bit. Torquing it up was altogether different after I thread chased and tapped the nuts over again. I don't know why I didn't even think of that, because I know better than that. You know, when you start machining and stuff, you always chase the threads and whatnot, but I just didn't on this. Figured I'd get away with it, but it was binding right up on the threads. So we'll give this old girl another run for her money here. Put her up into the starting spot. Give her a little dose. We know she likes it about there. Let's see if she'll go. There she goes. Come on. There we go. I don't see any smoke on the inside of the hopper this time. I think we got a So this is only running 250 RPM. It's supposed to run 400. I do have another set of springs. This is the set of springs that I run for the wood splitter. And I don't know where them springs have gone to. They are supposed to be right there on them 2 nails. And, you know, when I take one off, I just keep swapping them out. And for some reason, I don't know where they are. I'm just going to have to look around, see if I can find them. They could be anywhere. It could be in that box right there. Who knows? But we'll find them. And then it'll bring up to speed where you can use the cudwood saw, because a kind of like to use it this winter. Of course, you got to drain it every time you use it, which is a pain, but still, you know, you take 5 gallons with you, it ain't no big deal. So, anyway, that's going to be it for this 6-horse headless Witte valve chamber rebuild. It's been a long fought struggle, but we got it. I'm really kind of ashamed there to think that I didn't run thread chase them studs and the nuts right off the bat. That would have probably made the last gasket survive. But anyway, we got it covered now. So keep safe, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.